Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Town. So in the previous episode we were working on setting up some defences down in the southwest desert. We now have the wall in place, which means that we'll have less time dealing with the biters and more time being able to work on the towns. And so we start today. We've just been in Redport sorting out some furnaces, but unfortunately we are completely out of materials to finish setting that up. So just before that I go to the main area to grab some more supplies. I hop down to Chipton to check up on the situation over there and see how the trains are working, because we're setting up some extra supplies of copper to be delivered to Chipton because the supply in that town is running out. So I was just checking the train is actually set up to have the copper delivered, and it is. And while I'm here I decide to add some more miners in, because at the moment we've only got like 4 miners or whatever it was running, and there is space to do more, and that will help the at least in the short term, for the furnaces to run at full speed again. So we just set up an array of loads of them, and that's actually enough to fuel all the furnaces, but it'll probably run out in like 5 minutes time. So we're basically setting up the super short term solution, so we have time to set up the medium length solution, so that we have time to set up the long term solution. That's basically what it comes down to, I think. So we get that in place. We're actually struggling for supplies still, and we end up putting in an underground belt just because we don't have the materials to make a normal belt, or at least enough normal belts to fill that particular gap. So it gets working anyway, and we now have more than enough copper for a short time to get things going. And that might be the whole like circuit array running. I'm not sure if it's set up. I probably haven't put the right ratios and stuff in, but it's as much like circuit production as can be done, I think. So yeah, we go back to the main area, grab some various gears and plates and so on and so forth to resupply the car and myself. Unfortunately, we've used up so many gears that we don't have enough in storage to actually resupply me and the car. So I hang around for a bit just to get a little bit more of them made, and then we'll come back later for a second resupply to get the rest of them, and then we can get back to working on the Redport situation. So we start just sort of making like various belts and things, because half of the problem was that I didn't have any construction materials on me in the first place, so I had to use all my raw materials to make those. So I just get a bunch of splitters and underground belts and stuff crafted, so that we'll be fine with that. And then we go over to Redport to put in the remaining belts. We've managed to get it so that the furnaces were actually smelting the copper. We just didn't have enough materials left to unload the copper onto any belts, so we start putting that in. We didn't even have the power poles, I think. We were short on those as well. It was quite ridiculous. We spent the entire episode pretty much sorting out that wall, and we just used up everything we had to finish off all the belts and the turrets and so on. So there we go. We now have practically a full belt of copper. It's not quite, so I had in a couple of red belts to get the belts a bit more compressed, which is fine. But then I'm thinking that we need more throughput, so I started adding some more red belts in, but then I realised that actually it might just be that the furnaces are taking a while to empty out, and once they are emptied, we might not need any extra throughput anymore. Either way, there's now a full belt of copper being delivered into the loading chests, and hopefully also into the unloading chests at the other end in Chipton to keep the supply going. So now should be no problems with circuits for a time, and we can go and work on something a little bit more permanent to sort things out. On my way back, I notice I've missed out some signals here, which makes me wonder if there's any other place where I've just not put in signals between two towns, because the reason I noticed was because there was a train queuing back in Redport to go down to Frackham, or past Frackham, because there was, I think, a train in the station, the southbound station, and one queuing for it, which meant that that block was full, and that block extended all the way back to Redport, which was dumb. So we added in some more signals, and I have to keep an eye out for that in other places, because it'll really slow down the train movements if one train has to wait back at the town it's just left before it can set off somewhere else, just because some town down the line has a bit of a queue at it that isn't even relevant to the train. But anyway, we've gone back out into the wilderness in the east to deal with some more biters. Now that we've cleared out this big open space where there's no biter bases, they're all flooding back in again to recolonize. So bases will be cropping up quicker than they were before, but we're able to deal with them much quicker than we were before. So overall, we'll be spending a lot less time dealing with the biters, even with these extra bases springing up everywhere. And it's better to have an extra base springing up rather than an attack being launched on one of the towns generally, because that uses up ammo and things, and potentially blows up walls and guns and so on. I mean, flamethrower fuel is a resource as well, but we would have always had to kill the bases eventually, I guess. I don't know. Ultimately it makes things a lot easier because there's not a biter attack happening every 5 minutes when we have them cleared beyond the pollution line. Though unfortunately, like, removing them from inside the pollution area means the pollution extends further, which is half the problem here, I think. With the bite, like, you can often spot a biter in, like, unscanned territory because there's a hole in the pollution where it's being eaten that fast. So when you remove them, there's suddenly a lot less pollution being eaten and it's going a lot further, which is a bit of a problem. So you got to hope it comes across a forest before it comes across another biter base, essentially. And you got to hope there's a lot of forest in the first place. That's half the problem down in the southwest desert, is that it's a desert, and desert doesn't absorb pollution very well. And of course, there's no trees to help with that either, so it gets like the pollution just keeps going for miles and miles till it finds a biter base, which it is now doing, I think, over in the southwest area. It's just that now that we have the wall in place, the biters will attack, and then the attack will be fought off by the wall. We will have to keep an eye on that in the long run. We'll have to sort out some repaired systems and so on once we get logistics set up and so on. But for the moment, things should be okay over there. The turrets will weather a few attacks before they start to have any trouble. But anyway, I've spotted a little stone deposit down here. I think I was aware of it, but we hadn't like cleared the biters this far back, so I just not paid much attention to it. But now that we have no stone mining left in West Point, we're down to one little outpost in the south of the county, and so it's probably a good idea to set up a second one. It's always a good idea to have two supplies of any one material so that you can always fall back on one of them if the other one runs out or whatever. So I tried to set up two miners on this and be like really light on resources, make it a really small scale one, but I just couldn't, like, it turned out to be impossible to make a setup where the two miners could cover all the stone, but I think it also turned out that you couldn't cover with three, even though there was only like one square you couldn't cover when you used two of them, but it's like a weird thing about the arrangement or something. So I set up four and ran out of materials, so we'll have to go back later and finish that off. What we mainly ran out of was ammo, because we've just used a bunch of that to set up the wall in the southwest, so we have none left. We need to go to Fortin or over to West Point to get some more of that, and then we can actually set up all the turrets and stuff properly in that little outpost. It should be fine for the moment. There's a couple there if anything turns up, and at the moment we haven't mined anything yet, so we'll not lose much if the place does get attacked. So on my way over to West Point to get some ammo, I happened to pass by Flaskmere and decided to quickly pop in and check on how things were going. I unloaded some alien artifacts from my most recent biter slaughterings, and we checked up on the situation with the circuits, and predictably there were no normal circuits really, and processor units were mostly fine. They were constantly being required. The belts weren't full, but the chests were full on one of the stations, and on the other station it wasn't looking too bad, so it's alright considering we've been having some circuit issues. We definitely do need to improve the circuit production. We only have one circuit array at the moment with like only 4 actual circuit assemblers, and we really need more than that. We need to start expanding that a little bit more because it's limiting everything, I think. I'm not sure, it's probably the circuits that are limiting the blue science. Not that we need blue science particularly quickly right now, we're well behind what we're researching, but it's always nice to have it sorted for future, and it gives the factory something to do. Anyway, we're in the southwest desert now, where we found that actually there are biter bases here, and I was initially a little bit concerned that like they just suddenly recolonized the whole place, and I was wondering how they'd done it, thinking that somehow they'd like found a way to bypass the wall, but what it is they've come in from the south, and it's a bit weird because usually you would expect them to expand directly towards the base, but the terrain is weird here, and so they've actually been expanding sideways, because they've gone, well, there's bases in front of us where we can't build stuff, but off to this side, there's this massive open desert we can start colonizing, so they've just gone over there, started setting up some bases, so it's not quite as secure as I originally thought it was, so we'll have to basically tackle the source of that once we've resupplied and everything over in West Point. Basically, there's the 2 lakes in the south, and there's a little gap between them, and that's where all the biters seem to be coming through. If we can clear away that, then we shouldn't have any more problem in the southwest desert, because the biters would take miles and miles to actually get over to the desert, and by then I would have spotted them and probably pushed them back again. So anyway, grabbing some materials from the train as it arrives in West Point. I should have just gone to Fortin really, because the train ran away before I could finish grabbing everything I wanted. I've got like 10 stacks in the car now, and then another like 4 on my person, but I was hoping for like more like 6 or something. Doesn't make much difference. I could have just grabbed more from the loading chest in West Point, but I didn't want to starve it too much of ammo, though I wouldn't expect there to be any problems with ammo supplies. I don't think we've had a single attack yet on the new wall, but it's inevitable that it will happen at some point. And even then it won't use very much ammo at all. It would take like huge scale attacks that like span the length of the wall to cause us some major issues with ammo supply. So anyway, we've gone to the two south lakes to push the biters back and stop them getting to the desert, and also investigate them a bit more, because we haven't actually scanned like all the way down. We don't know that they are two separate lakes, though it's definitely shaping up to look like that. They are separating away from each other, but you can always hope that it combines into one, and that this just forms a nice natural barrier to stop the biters getting in, because otherwise we'll have to make an unnatural barrier. We'll have to put some defensive walls and turrets and so on in to stop them getting any further. So we drive a little further, and it becomes very clear that they stay separate, so that's a shame. We'll have to actually defend this area and commit some resources to putting a wall in and so on. I managed to draw the attention of the biters as I'm doing my little scouting mission, but we set up some a fire wall to stop them getting through. It's mainly spitters, so easy enough. We have accidentally set that forest on fire there. I guessed it would when I started burning the biter base in there, and I just decided not to bother trying to stop it because it's effort. I mean, I have some grenades handy to make some fire breaks, but it's probably fine. It will make the pollution extend further to the south now, but we've just set up this wall, so we should be fine. Conveniently, I had enough materials in terms of some stone walls and materials to make some turrets that I could just immediately set up the whole thing, which is nice. We can't make we can make the turrets as dense as we did on the other wall, but I decided not to bother. It's probably fine. We'll only have the occasional attack on here, though we will have to keep an eye on it, because we're not like resupplying this particular place. I've not set up any, well, I don't later on set up any ammo supplies going to it. We could extend the belt round the lake, but it's quite a trek. We probably would just want to set up a new train depot or something rather than have that, which we could do, definitely. It's a remote area, it's nice and out of the way, so we wouldn't be like in the way of any other towns. And well, I think the main issue is finding what to actually do with said town apart from fuel these turrets. I mean, we could just have like a little mini station that just drops off some ammo and leaves it at that. There is a coal deposit as well, which is good, because then we can do the coal-fueled inserter system with the fueling of the turrets and not have to have that delivered in. Anyway, one more base to deal with between the two lakes, and now the place should be completely safe, hopefully, and we'll only have to worry about biters coming from the southeast and so on. So, back over to the little stone thing we're building here to add some more stuff in. We'll get some solar panels in place. It's nearly enough to keep them fully powered during the day, but not quite. I'm not that bothered about it running at full pelt, but I thought it's better than putting in like 2. I might as well put in 5 and get them going a little bit quicker, otherwise it'll take forever for any mining to actually happen. But I think the way it works out is that the solar panels generate 300 kilowatts. I forget what the actual, I think it's kilowatts is probably the amount, or maybe it's normal watts. I don't pay much attention to like how the scale works with that. But basically they provide 300 arbitrary power units, and the miners would want 360, so it's not quite perfect, but it's not wasteful in terms of solar panels, so that's nice. In the night they'll of course shut down entirely, but that's fine. Ultimately we'll slowly mine the entire deposit, and every now and then we'll be able to come along and grab some stone. And now that we have these, like, it's not a negligible amount of stone. It could be enough that we could start working on flooring again, but there are only a few of these deposits around the place that we can make use of. There is one more a little bit further away from this one that I could use as well. But yeah, ultimately I don't think there's enough around to give us as much stone as we want in the end. Because the sort of way it works is like there's a certain density of towns that I'm maintaining in the county, and we would need there to be enough density of stone deposits within that space to give us like enough stone to floor all those places and floor all the rails and things like that. That's sort of the measurement, I guess, and I don't think we have that. I think there's less stone deposits than there are requirements for stone in the area, so we'll always have to go like twice as far to find enough stone to set up all our towns and so on. Anyway, back over to Chipton to check upon the situation with the copper supply. I decided to finally add in a gate here, because so far I've just been sneaking in via the train gate, which was inevitably going to get me killed at some point when I walked through and a train happened to also be going through the gate at the same time. So we set up a new one there to park our car through, and now we've run out of half of our miners. We're now down to 4, which is keeping like a third of the furnaces going, but we do have the supply of copper plates coming in from Redport, which should keep things running fairly okay. We're not helping the situation by taking some copper plates from the main area, which is actually supplied by Chipton. We just have this random, these two random ore lines going all the way from Chipton up to this place to get the production working. But anyway, we'll grab what materials we can or what we need and set up some more like turret production and things like that to sort out what we used up to make the wall in the south, and then we'll continue on our way. And we have a particular project we want to undertake, but first of all we'll go over to Fortin to get some more ammo. We've used up a bunch of it again, sorting out the new wall in the south, and it makes more sense to go to Fortin than to go to West Point, because Fortin actually makes the stuff rather than being supplied with it every now and then. Going over there, everything seems fine. Continuing to run out of copper here, this is going to need some as well. It's a running theme at the moment. Every town needs copper except Redport, which still has plenty of it in supply, but it will use it eventually. There's plenty of copper used in the production of the advanced circuits. But yeah, everywhere needs copper and everywhere is running out of it. We need to go over to Julbra at some point and clear out the copper mining there, because I'm pretty sure that is at this point run out and can be removed and the various materials repurposed everywhere else. We need to finish the wall in Julbra. I've just sort of forgotten about that town at the moment. It's set up so it's fine. We just needed it for those modules to make the power suit and we're good. At some point I'll grab some more of them. Maybe I'll start like putting productivity and speed modules in oil production and things like that. Maybe I'll put efficiency modules in everything else as well, but I think I decided I wouldn't do that this time because it like removes power issues from the game entirely and means that like you just have a few solar panels and you're sorted. And you know, we've got Colbury to sort out our power. I don't want to put it out of a job by just switching entirely to solar. Though we could turn Colbury into a solar town. Makes a bit of sense, I guess. Anyway, more biter bases to deal with. They've continued to expand into the pollution again, so we push them back again. And that means that there's no biter bases inside the pollution range in the southeast, which means that we can start building a new town on this here copper deposit. So I start working out exactly where I want to put it. Basically looking at the map and working out where I want to have a rail line, because I like to plan for the future here and have it so that a rail line will line up with future deposits and things like that. Unfortunately, at the moment, the rail line that I'm looking at is going to go straight through the middle of a coal deposit if I put it on the north of these north of this copper deposit. But if I put it on the south of the deposit, then there would be no room between the junction that connects it to the main line and Newton, and then we might have some issues with grid locks happening because there's too many trains in that particular area. Like the issues that we occasionally have over at the Chipton junction, where things are just too busy because the junction is right next to the town and a lot of trains move through it. There's occasionally jams because one thing blocks another and then that one blocks it. And so it can, like, occasionally we get issues that we want to avoid by like thinking in the long term and not putting in junctions too close to towns, basically. So I have it on the north side of this deposit, and we'll just have to work out what we do about the coal in future. We may never mine that coal, we may never need it. There's other coal deposits around that we can make use of as well. But anyway, in order to set up the junction, I decided to make a blueprint, which is a little bit weird because I don't have any like bots set up, so I can't like get any construction bots to build it, and I don't have a personal roboport I can use. But basically, I'm just going to make this blueprint so that I can build it, because it speeds up the process a bit from setting it up manually. Otherwise I'd have to remember my design. I can just get a blueprint, plonk it down, and then I know exactly where to build, and I can just copy what I've already made before, rather than trying to remember every time exactly how you set up a T-junction and remember where the signals go and so on. So we do a bit of messing about with some power poles so that we can move it out of the way without having to like build an extra one or anything, so to keep things looking neat. And just then we had our first attack on the new defensive wall in the desert, and it seemed to go fine. One of the turrets was damaged, so that's probably something we're going to have to keep expecting. I mean, we've got behemoth biters and stuff, so they can usually weather the attacks of the turrets enough to get close enough to do some damage and so on. Though I guess it's probably the spitters doing the actual damaging of the turrets. But yes, anyway, we've just set up the junction very easily by just copying everything that was already there, and we'll keep that blueprint around for now, just to like help us build the junctions manually, and then later on to tell the bots to build them. So anyway, with us setting up a new copper town, we will need a name for it. This is going to be a big one. It's going to be a powerhouse of the county, I'm imagining, because eventually it's going to be doing all the smelting and, well, for a time it's going to be doing all the mining of the county in terms of copper. And even after the copper deposit has run out, I intend for it to continue to be the big smelting town. So it's going to be the sort of permanent supply of all copper plates to all of the towns. And it's going to be, well, once the supplies of ore run out from the deposit itself, it'll just have those delivered in from other towns. So yeah, this is going to be the permanent big copper supply. And we need a name befitting its level of industry or whatever. I don't know. Come up with whatever you feel like, and I'll pick one that I like. I mean, if you haven't seen, like, seeing as there's been a gap since the last time we did a town, I'll just mention, yeah, basically just in the comments, just shout names. I will note them all down, and then I'll just go through them, take them on, like, take more and more off the list until I'm down to the one, and we'll be good. But that's all we have time for today, so I say goodbye, thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.